Hi, I'm Morag from Our Permaculture Life. One of the things that I find really important in a permaculture garden is actually having lots of different sorts of composting systems. Now, a lot of people have asked me to talk about what sort of composting systems I have in my garden, and rather than talking about them all in once, I thought I'd batch it up and talk about a different system each time. Now, for me, the important thing is thinking about having different types of composting systems in different parts of the garden. It just seems to make sense that way. So I have worm farms, I have worm towers, I have compost bins, I have compost bays, and I have compost piles and bokashi bins, a whole range of different systems. And while it might sound a bit complex and a bit overdone, it actually does make it really simple, having a combination of different things that all work in harmony together and make it resilient. If one's full or one's slowed down because it's winter, another one's working. And while one's working on one part of the garden, another one's working on another part. And I'm not shoveling compost from one part of the garden to another. I try and do it as much as possible in situ. So the compost system I wanted to talk to you today about is one of my simplest systems, and that is the compost bin. Now, most people have a compost bin or can access a compost bin or can construct one quite easily. This one here I have is just one of the standard ones made out of recycled plastic. And over time what I've done is filled it up with food scraps from the kitchen and laid it. Each time I place some compost into here, the food scraps, I've added in some either hay or ripped up paper. Anything that's biodegradable from the house will come out into this thing. We'll mix it up with the greens and the browns in a good balance of that carbon and nitrogen. And always, when I've finished adding some extra fresh materials, what I do is add this layer of straw on the top, so that whatever you see when you lift open the bin is the hay. You're not faced with a mess of rotting, maggoty sort of food scraps when you open up the bin. It is actually biodegrading and it's fresh and it's not fly blown or anything. Now, the other thing that's really good about this, good to do with this, is to have a little fork close by, and so that every now and then as you're doing it, you can just put this in and loosen it up a little bit and get a little bit of aeration in while it's still processing. Because when you get that heat into it, it helps to, when you get the air into it, it helps to encourage the bacteria which are going to really get that heat, which is going to break it down. So inside of here, if I put my hand into here, it's really quite warm inside there actually, right down into the middle of here. See, it's really breaking down beautifully now. That's fantastic. Into this, you can see there's a bit of an avocado skin. There's remnants of all different sorts of things in here. But I also add in coffee grounds from the local cafes and tea leaves from our teapot and all different sorts of things. So what else can I find? Some eggshells, even citrus. Look, I don't actually mind adding in a little bit of citrus every now and then. If I was going to be doing massive amounts of juicing, I probably wouldn't add in all of those all at one time. But a few in and around, it's absolutely fine. Same with adding things like onion skins and so on. Now, what I wanted to tell you about this particular compost system was that I leave it now, as it cools down and as it sinks down into the ground, the worms start to come up and start to take that back out into the soil around. It will be activating all the different sorts of microorganisms to come in and around this bin. So what's going on around this garden now is really starting to make the soil very alive and very healthy. Once it gets to a certain point of decomposition, and pretty soon, because that's looking pretty good, I will actually lift off the bin and simply spread it out across this site and then do my no-dig method on the top. And I'll put a link down below as how I do that. So I'll just spread it out, put the newspaper and the mulch on top. And the reason I put the newspaper in this case is because even though this is broken down really nicely, I'm pretty sure there's going to be seeds in it, vegetable seeds, pumpkin seeds, tomato seeds, whatever. And if I want to start to grow other things in this spot now, I'll need to make sure that they're not the main things coming up through. So what this bin has done here is activated this particular site. I'm not going to put it straight back in here again. It's actually going to move to another spot. So I'll find another spot in the garden that I think needs a really big boost, and I'll move the bin there and start to do the whole thing again. I've just noticed some wallabies in the garden, kangaroos over here. They're doing some weeding for me. And there's one with the baby in the pouch. That's one of the things I love about living at Crystal Ward is having the wildlife surrounding us all the time. And you know, you might think that kangaroos and wallabies would end up doing a lot of damage in a garden like this, but strangely enough, they just eat the grass and the weeds in amongst the vegetables. So we have a really lovely partnership going on here. So I do have fences around here, but I quite often leave the gates open, and they've just they've just wandered in. So anyway, back to the compost. A compost bin is a really useful system in terms of activating a certain area and making compost where you're going to use it. So I'm not going to be shoveling anything from here to there. It's right where I want it, and that makes gardening easy. I'm all for trying to find solutions that enable us to actually recycle all the food scraps and the food waste we can find around and garden scraps right where we want to be using it, activating the soil at the same time, and then once we plant into it, getting a beautiful garden that the plants are so healthy and robust that one, they don't get very pest prone, two, they create beautifully nutrient dense food. And also the soil has so much organic matter in it that it holds the moisture. So I actually don't even need to be watering the garden very much as well. So there's so many benefits of this particular type of composting system. And I know that, you know, it's been around for a long time and people are very familiar with it. But in terms of using it, like I call it, like a compost tractor, I find it extremely useful, and I really do encourage people to try it. And if they might have given up for various reasons, to give it another go. So thanks for watching. It's Moira Gamble, Our Permaculture Life.